The streets of Paris, Berlin, and Brussels are overrun by illegal and aggressive Islamic migrants. In Western Europe, it is already too late to save the situation, but many countries, especially in our region, can still defend themselves against the wave of migration. An example is set by the new conservative Czech Prime Minister, Andrej Babiš, who has built a coalition based on values, no to leftist ideology, climate madness, and above all, illegal migration. The new government that is coming, which was formed on the basis of the October election results, is composed of three parties, all of which are very strongly opposed to any illegal immigration into the Czech Republic. His compatriots think similarly, as they do not want the beautiful and peaceful streets of Prague and other cities to be turned into a battlefield by Islamists. The Czechs do not want to give up the common space they have worked hard to create to other cultures that do not behave as they would like in this public space. In the Czech Republic, they take a particularly dim view of what is happening in Western Europe, particularly in Germany. A completely different attitude is taken by Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, who, to the applause of Ursula von der Leyen, is bringing illegal immigrants from Germany behind the backs of Poles, and the real wave is yet to come to mislead voters. Only after the parliamentary elections in 2027, he will exclude Poland from the relocation mechanism. Donald Tusk boasts that he has postponed the invasion of migrants into our country by only 1 year. Sell it as a success. The invasion of our country will begin. It doesn't matter that it has been postponed for a year, but it will happen. Europe is dying as a civilization, and will die because the people who let the migrants in here are now trying in panic to cover up the effects of this disastrous decision. As head of the European Council, Tusk already demanded that countries reluctant to accept Islamists do so, threatening them with sanctions. Now, he will probably implement a plan that is hostile to Poles. Brussels is already interfering with the security of Poles. In November, the EU agency Frontex stopped the deportation of 10 Pakistanis from the airport in Rzeszów to Islamabad. Officials said that this was in the best interests of the immigrants, although they did not even mention the interests of Poles. Under the rule of Donald Tusk, who is obedient to Berlin, Poland may become an arena for a migration scenario written by left-wing liberal leaders. Germany, but also France and the United Kingdom, in my opinion, deliberately led to the disintegration of their own communities, Christians in particular. The invasion of Muslims and the insolent behavior of some of them is extremely dangerous. I hope that this will not be the case in Poland, and that we will defend our country against illegal migrants. Murders, beatings, thefts, and robberies are now commonplace in many neighborhoods dominated by Islamic immigrants. Women are particularly vulnerable to violent attacks. French women, for example, have to be careful because they are exposed to danger, insecurity, and crime in public places. 60% of rapes on public transport in Paris are committed by foreigners, most often from Muslim communities, civilizations, and cultural circles. Ordinary French, Belgians, and Spaniards are fed up with the aggression of illegal immigrants and are increasingly taking matters into their own hands. Similarly, the British, ruled by liberals, are taking to the streets en masse to defend their own culture, their own flag, and their own citizens. Listen to how beautifully the British speak about Poland, which has not yet been flooded by the wave of migration.
Cześć, dzień dobry. Dzień dobry. What was your Christmas lights turn on in Warsaw? It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. What was ours like in London? What was ours? Yeah, the Independence March, but what was your Christmas celebration in Warsaw was beautiful this year. What was ours like in London? Pathetic, embarrassing, embarrassing.
The British are fed up with the terror of illegal immigrants, which is why they took to the streets of London today.
Put Christ into Christmas. How easy is that as a concept? What I love about these events, they're big family, fun, friendly events. It unites the community behind a really easy principle. And that's what we're doing here.
At stake in these protests is the safety and preservation of the British community from Islamic invasion. delicious pizza and the best pasta in the world. These are, of course, attributes of Italy, but the country is also famous for one more thing, namely gold, or more precisely, its reserves. Almost 2,500 tons of this precious metal, worth 290 billion euros, means that sunny Italy has the third largest gold reserves in the world. The government of Giorgia Meloni wants to clarify who this fortune belongs to by adding the nation as the owner to the law. In a document from the ruling Brothers of Italy party, we read the following. Italy cannot risk private investors claiming rights to Italian gold reserves. That is why we need a law that clarifies ownership issues. But Italian bankers, and above all European bankers, are sounding the alarm. In their opinion, the decision of the government in Rome violates the European Treaty, threatens the independence of the central bank, and weakens the stability of the euro. The European Central Bank has called on the Italian authorities to reconsider the amendment. This nervous reaction comes as no surprise to economists. If other European countries follow in Rome's footsteps, it could spell the end of the euro. The European Central Bank claims the right to control, or at least would like to have control over the central banks of individual countries. So the fact that almost 2,500 tons of gold would slip out of its control is certainly not to its liking. Control over gold reserves is also a prerequisite for creating strong European authorities capable of imposing their will on member states. This is a move towards a superstate in the European Union because, as it turns out, Italian ownership is being called into question. The expansion of European institutions is a fact. The new U.S. national security strategy warns against this. The challenges facing Europe include the actions of the European Union and other supranational organizations that undermine political freedom and sovereignty, as well as migration policy. One of the methods of protection against a European superstate with its capital in Brussels is a strong national currency, economists argue. We must never join the Eurozone because it will take away our sovereignty, not only in terms of managing or creating monetary policy, but it also poses a threat of simply taking away our capital, our resources. The newly appointed government in the Czech Republic is also working on a similar assumption. Among other things, Andrej Babiš's government has pledged to break the migration pact, move away from the ETS emissions trading system, and keep the Czech koruna as its currency. Three leading figures of the Belarusian opposition are free: Maria Kolesnikova, Aleš Bielatsky, and Viktor Babaryka, a total of 123 people, including many foreigners, among them one Polish citizen, Roman Gałuza. This is about 10% of the total number of political prisoners held in Belarus. Among this group, there are many well-known figures, such as Aleš Bielatsky. He is a Belarusian Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Also, among those released is Viktor Babaryka, Lukashenko's main opponent and rival before the 2020 elections, who was imprisoned at that time. Unfortunately, Andrzej Poczobut, whom Poland has been waiting for, is not among the 123 political prisoners released, and he remains in prison. Lukashenko's amnesty is a gesture of goodwill, which was a prerequisite for the lifting of U.S. sanctions on Belarusian potash. For 4 years, Europe's largest fertilizer producer was on the U.S. blacklist. Donald Trump's envoy in Minsk negotiated with Lukashenko the possibility of easing sanctions in exchange for the freedom of oppositionists. Contrary to the claims of Donald Trump's critics, the Americans are playing Minsk by their own rules. Their understanding of the situation was emphasized a few days ago by the current leader of the Belarusian opposition.
Americans are not naive regarding this. They understand what sanctions might be lifted, what sanctions not, and their decisions are rather wise. And our task is to make sure that President Trump has carrots, and he uses carrots at the moment, but he also has sticks. If the Belarusian regime doesn't fulfill, the deal, sanctions can be put in place as fast as possible.
Okay, good.
Following the failure of talks with Moscow, the Americans are trying to attract Belarus, for which a partial easing of sanctions is of great importance. At the same time, however, the White House is trying to increase pressure on Russia and Ukraine to agree to the terms of the peace plan.
If it's still up in the air, whether we believe real peace can be accomplished and we can truly move the ball forward, the president is extremely frustrated with both sides of this war, and he's sick of meetings just for the sake of meeting. He doesn't want any more talk. He wants action. He wants this war to come to an end. And the administration has spent more than 30 hours, just in the past couple of weeks, meeting with the Russians and the Ukrainians and the Europeans and speaking with them as well.
More were to take place this weekend in Berlin, but according to French media, the meeting will not take place for logistical reasons. On Monday, a summit is to be held in the German capital with representatives of European countries, NATO, and the Ukrainian president. It is not known whether anyone from the United States will attend. According to unofficial information, Ukraine was not to agree to any territorial concessions, but in the background, there is an idea to create a free economic zone in Donbass. It is difficult to say whether this idea would be acceptable to both Kiev and Moscow.
Well, I don't want to do that now. It's a very complex situation, but it would work, and a lot of people want to see it work, and we're going to, all I want to do is I want to stop the death of 25,000 people a month.
Ukrainians want to show that they are capable of conducting offensive operations. Kupiansk, allegedly captured by the Russians a few weeks ago, which had been fought over for more than 2 months, was recaptured by Ukrainian forces in a matter of hours. I congratulated the soldiers. I thank every unit, everyone who is fighting here, everyone who is destroying the occupiers. Today, it is extremely important to achieve results on the front line so that Ukraine can achieve results in diplomacy. This is crucial because the situation on the front line has been very difficult for Ukrainians for many weeks. Every victory, even the smallest one, gives not only hope but also arguments in talks with allies.